Hi, welcome to the exam collection. So we've got another half dozen exam questions around that grade 4 or 5 for you to practice this week. If you're new to this, if it's the first time, then I always want to just say your methods may be different to mine. I'm obviously using the methods that I do in class with my students and within my courses. Maths can often be worked out a different way. And if your way is different, but you're coming out with the right answer and you've got all that work to back up where it's come from, you're going to get the marks anyway. Okay, so let's crack on. There is your first question. You're going to hit pause, have a go, and then when you're ready, press play to see the worked solution. Okay, so we're being asked to draw the graph of x plus y equals 4, and we've got to do it for a range of x values between -2 and 5. So the first thing to spot here is that our x values -2 to 5 are the values that we have here on our x-axis. That always ties up. So if you've never noticed that before, that's quite a good thing to spot. And what we're doing is we're saying whatever the x is, when I add it to y, it's got to equal 4. So let's take this end point here, 5. Okay, so I'm looking at 5 or I'm looking at 5 here. We know that these are our x values. So if I was to put a 5 where the x is, something's got to go there to make 4. And the only thing that's going to go there to make 4 is a -1. 5 take 1 is 4. So my x coordinate is 5 and my y coordinate is -1. So I can go across to the grid now and I can pop that in its place. The next one to do, I mean, you could do a complete table and there would be nothing wrong with that and populate it all. It's not always necessary to do every single value though. I think if you do a minimum of 3, then you've got enough to be able to draw on your line. So let's look at our x being -2. So I've gone to the other extreme. I've gone to this part here. So -2 and then something must equal 4. Well, to get from -2 to 4, I'm going to need to add 6. So the coordinate there is -2, 6. So -2, 6 would be here. Now, like I said, I think it's really important to have more than 2. I mean, I could line my ruler up now and I could get the line and it would be accurate, but we want the examiner to know it's not a fluke. We want the examiner to see we understood what we're doing. So now I'm just going to choose a random one. I'm going to say x is 4. 4 and something must equal 4. Well, that's going to be add or -0. I don't want to do anything. So when x is 4, y is 0. Let's do x is 2. So 2 plus something must equal 4. That's 2, 2. 2 2's there. And I've probably now got enough to be able to draw my line confidently and to keep my examiner super happy. So I'm going to go through the points. I would be lining my ruler up. This can sometimes jump a bit, so I've just got to hope that I get a straight line through the points. Not bad at all. Really important that you put the line on. Sometimes I see just the coordinates plotted and then they move on. So that's that one. That's your next question. So I want you to hit pause, read it carefully, think about what you are seeing and give it a good old go. Okay, so this is actually quite a tough question. There's so many things happening. So when I read the first sentence, it says the diagram shows the cross section of a solid prism. Now that word itself should trigger the fact that we have a 3D shape. So they're being incredibly mean right from the start because they're not showing us a 3D shape. We're looking at a 2D shape, but the story has already started to talk about a solid, a 3D shape. The length of the prism is 2 meters. So I now know that this prism is going to go back by 2 meters. So I'm just going to start sketching this on. So I've got a better feel for what's happening. So this length here, which is taking the cross section or the front face into a 3D shape, is 2 meters. And at this point, I need to have another alarm ringing because this is 2 meters, whereas my cross section is being given in centimeters. So I'm in different units. So like I said, they're really mean with this question. I've got to stay in the same units. Now, I'm not going to change my centimeters into meters because that's just going to create a lot of decimals. So I'm going to change this into centimeters, which would be 200 centimeters. I don't even know what the question is yet. I'm just starting to build a picture of the picture they're giving me. So they've told me it's a prism. I've made it look like one. They've told me the length is 2 meters. I've sorted that out. If I keep reading, it says the prism is made from metal and the density, okay, I've hit another key word, density. The density of the metal is 8 grams per centimeters cubed. So this is grams per centimeters cubed. So that's good that I'm in centimeters because that section is as well. And I've got to work out the mass, another key word. So the density and the mass should have triggered the formula triangle. Mass, density, volume, mum's on top. Okay. To work out the mass, which is what they're asking, I need to do density times the volume. I know the density is 8, and I've got to times the volume, which I don't have. So that's my problem. I now need to go back to my shape and start thinking about how I'm going to work the volume out. So the volume is found by doing the area of the front face times by the third length. The front face is our cross section. We in class refer to that as a front face. So the front face is my L shape here. So my L shape, I'm going to split into 2 rectangles. This rectangle here is 2 times 7, which is 14. And this rectangle here is just this edge. So it's not the whole of the 7. It's 2, 7 take away that 2, which is going to give me 5. So that's going to be 5 times 2, which equals 10. So the area of the front face is 14 plus 10, which is 24. Okay. So we'll put that down. I'll go back to red. That's the area of the front face. I've got to times that through by 200 because that is the third length, the length that makes it 3D. When I do that, okay, 2 times 24 is 48, and just add on those 2 zeros. So I've now got the volume. So I can go back up here and I can say it's 8 times 4,800. Now remember, we don't have a calculator. So how you choose to do this would be your go-to method for multiplication. I encourage my class, if they need to multiply, just use the Chinese grid. It works. So don't deviate, just go straight for it. I've got, however, a 4-digit number there. So I'm going to need to make sure that I do create space for everything. So I've got my 4, my 8, my 0, my 0. Okay, put in the triangles. We're timesing by 8 and away you go. So anything multiplied by 0 is 0. 8 8s are 64. 8 4s are 32. Drop out a 0, drop out a 0. I've got 4, 6 and 2 is 8 and 3. So I have got 38,000 even, 400 grams. And just go back and check with the question. It wanted me to find the mass. That's what I've done. It hasn't told me to do it in a different unit or anything, so I can leave my answer confidently as the answer I have found. So a lot hidden in that question. So quite a tricky one, I think. All right, there's your next one. Hit pause and press play when you're ready. Okay, so we've got 50 counters in a bag. The counters are blue, yellow, black, or white. and a counter is taken at random. The table shows each of the probabilities, and we've got to work out the number of yellow counters that are in the bag. So the first thing I need to know is the probability for getting yellow. So I'm going to add together the probabilities that I've been given. Okay, that's going to come to 0.86. Probabilities add to 1. So the examiner really likes to see this. 1 take away 0.86. If I take away the probabilities I know, it's going to leave me the probability I don't know. That is 0.14. You could put that up in the table if you wanted to as well. So I've worked out the probability of getting yellow. If 50 counters are available in the bag, a proportion of those are yellow. So 0.14 of the 50 are yellow. 0.14 of means times. So we've got this calculation to now do. And again, there is lots of different ways that you could approach that particular question. I'm going to just do it through the Chinese method because, again, if you're stuck, that should be your absolute go-to. Because it just, if you're confident with it, it just never fails, does it really? So I ignore the fact that it's a decimal and I'll set my grid up. My standard grid is 3 by 3, which I will always do unless I've got a special case like 4 digits or something. I don't need the whole grid. It's 14 by 50. So when I multiply in, I've got 20 and 5. Multiplying by 0 gives zeros. So I've got a 0, and a 7 that's coming out. Now I go back to the fact that I ignored that decimal. I've just done 14 times 50. But really I should have been doing 0.14. So that decimal place or point has gone in 2 places. So I will do that in my answer, and my answer is 7, which makes sense. It can't be 700, there's only 50 in there. It can't be 70, there's only 50 in there. So 7 counters are yellow. All right, next question. Okay, I'm going to just make it a little bit, unless you want to do them both at the same time and then I go through them both. Well, I suppose we could do that, couldn't we? Why don't we do that? All right, so hit pause, have a go at both those questions and then hit play when you're ready and I will go through both of them. Okay, so we've got a keyword here, estimate, and we've got to spot that because when we don't spot that, we end up doing the exact question as we see it. And you could do that perfectly. It would take a bit of work, but you could do that perfectly and you will get nothing, literally 0 marks because you haven't estimated the question. So when you read that word estimate, it means that you must round all of these numbers to one significant figure. That is the expectation. So 6.8 is going to round to 7. 191 would round to 200. And then 0.051 is going to round to 0.05. That's the first digit with value. So the first one significant figure means that. Now I'm going to multiply along the top. 7 times 2 is 14, and I've got those 2 zeros, and there's nothing to do on the bottom. So I'm making a start now. I need to work out how many 0.05s there are in 1400. So I don't want to work in a decimal. I'm going to multiply through by 100 because that will move the decimal point 2 places and it will create me 5 on the bottom. Perfect. But whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I've got 1400 and now I'm adding another couple of zeros. So I'm getting quite a big number and I've got to trust that what I'm doing is accurate. Double check your maths, make sure you're happy with it. So I've now got to do, and I've got 4 zeros. I've got to divide that by 5. So into the bus shelter I go. 5s into 1 don't go, carry the 1. 5s into 14 go 2, remainder 4. 5s into 40 go 8, and then I've got 3 zeros to bring up. So my final answer would be 28,000. Okay, next question. So when I read this, I give it the 2-tick test. If you've watched any of the other videos, you'll already know about that. It's something that we do in class. So I can see that there is a decrease happening, and I've got the percentage. So a 2-tick question means I'm using the formula original times multiplier equals result. Multiplier is my job. In fact, everything's my job because I don't have a calculator that I can just shove it in. So we're doing it all by hand. Multiplier is key. If I don't know how to write a multiplier, I'm not going to get this right. So my multiplier always starts with 100%. It's a decrease question. It's talking about a reduction that's happened. And I mustn't change the story. It's very tempting to, because we're trying to work out the normal price of the TV, which we know means our answer is going to be bigger, but we've got to trust in our formula and not deviate. So the story is about a decrease, a reduction. 100% take 30% is 70%. I'm going to write 70 as a decimal, not a percentage. So that means dividing through by 100, and I've got my multiplier of 0.7. So there's this original amount that the TV cost. When it got multiplied by 0.7, it gave the result of 350. If I want to know what the original was, then I need to divide through by the bottom. So I'm going to divide through by 0.7. And just like the previous question, I don't want to divide by a decimal. So I'm going to multiply that through by just the 10, and that will get me a 7 on the bottom. So I've now got 3,500, because I multiply the top by 10 as well, to divide by 7. 7s into 3 don't go, 7s into 35 go 5, and then I bring those 2 zeros up. So the answer is 500. Now I am going to show a slightly alternative method here. It's one that we're starting to explore. We have this method called boxes and labels, which can be really brilliant, and it does work here. So for anybody that finds that a lot to do, you can just create the maths in a slightly different way. So what I'm going to do is, I'll do it to the side actually, just so that you can see it. So the way that you could think about this question is you could think, okay, the cost of the television is £350, and that's at 70% of its original value. If 30% was taken off, then 70% is left. And that 350 is represented by the 70. If I want the original price, then I want to know what it was when it was 100%. Now we use our trap number. So we've got 70 trapped. I can put this in any order that I want. Obviously, it is calculator, so it might be easier one way or the other. I'm going to go with this. I can cancel those 2 zeros. And I've now got 10 times 350. So that's going to give me 3,500. And I've got to divide that by 7. So you can see that at this stage, I've got to this stage here. So I'm getting the same maths coming out. Hopefully that was helpful, having an alternative thrown in there as well. Okay, our next question. I want you to just read through that. Have a go, and then hit play when you're ready. Okay, so we're being told that we've got 2 shapes that are regular pentagons, and they're the same size. And you have to work out the size of the angle EAH, and you've got to show how you got there. So that just basically means you just need to write everything you're doing down. So let's identify the angle they actually want us to find. Okay, so we've got EAH. So this is the angle that is important. But we don't even have one angle given to us, literally not even one. And it's these types of questions where you can be a bit like, where do I even start? The clue is here in the word regular. Regular is a key word, and it needs to trigger this formula triangle. So I call it a trigger word. So we've got this formula triangle where 360 is in the top. We've got X for exterior angle, and then we've got S for side. So you could put SI in if you can squeeze it in. You could write the whole word in. So when I read regular, that has to be the first thing that I write down. And then the first mark will come from using that formula. So even if you couldn't get any further, if you can do this first step, you have guaranteed a mark. So we are going to put the number of sides in. We've been told it's a pentagon. It's a 5-sided shape. So we're going to do 360, and we're going to divide it by the number of sides, which is 5. So again, I don't have a calculator, so I'm going to have to do my trusty bus shelter. 5s into 3 don't go. 5s into 36 go 7 with 1 remainder, and 5s into 10 go 2. Now, it's really important that we know what we're doing here. The formula triangle is all about the exterior. So this angle that I've just found is the exterior. The exterior lies, and I'm just going to do it a little bit away from where we want to be. It lies on the outside as a straight line, so not that, okay? So what we've done is we've worked out that the exterior is 72 degrees. And because the exterior does sit on a straight line, it means that we can find the interior now really, really easily. So we know that this inside here is 108. So, but we've got to show everything. So 180 take away 72 is 108. Now, I need to pull this in a way that helps me, okay? So I'm going to highlight the pentagon that has the angle we want to find. Now, because it's regular, every single, oops, let me get my little light. Because it's regular, every single inside angle is equal. So all of these angles here are 108. So this angle here is 108. This angle here is on the second pentagon, but it is 108. Now I'm homing in on this particular part of the diagram because what I've spotted, and hopefully I can show it with a bit of color, is that angle there has to be 108. Yeah, this angle, because it's the inside, the interior angle of my pentagon. So if I can work out what this one is, then I'll be able to do 108, take away whatever that is. It's going to give me the angle I'm looking for. So that's why I'm now concentrating and focusing in on this quadrilateral that's been created by the overlap. These two are 108. If I add those together, so I've got 108 plus 108, that's going to give me 216. Quadrilaterals add up to 360. So if I do 360, take away the 216, that's going to give me 144. That 144 is going to be shared between this angle and this angle because they are also equal. So 144 divided by 2, so I've literally just got to half that, is going to be 72. So that angle there is 72. So 108 take away 72 is going to give me my answer, and that is 36 degrees. It's a huge question. Regular shapes are really common. So it's definitely something that you would want to target for sure. So I've got one of my Wednesday questions is regular, and then that links through to a more detailed support system. So if that was something you wanted to revise, do go and check out the other videos. Okay, next question. So this is the last one. Have a read. Think about how you're going to approach it. Take your time. It is, if I scroll down, a 4-mark question. And that's something that's really worth doing. Check in with the number of marks because it gives you an idea of how big the question is and how much work you're going to need to do. So hit pause and press play when you are ready. Okay, I'm going to quickly show you what not to do. Because you're reading average speed, it's really tempting to just want to add those two speeds together and divide through by 2. That would be 120 divided by 2, which would be 60. But think about it. That's not a lot of work, and it's not really going to be worth 4 marks. So if that is what you did, you already know it's gone a little bit wrong for you. If it's not what you did, then fingers crossed you are on the right lines. So with a question like this, which again is really, really wordy, I try and pull a bit of a picture together. For maths, I work in symbols and diagrams. That's what my brain processes far, far easier than it does sentences. So I'm going to think about the story. It says, Harry travels from Appleton to Brockley at an average speed of 50. So I'm going to say that that is Appleton, that is Brockley, and the average speed, I'm just going to label in, is 50 miles per hour. It then says he travels from Brockley to Cantham at an average speed of 70. Okay, so I'm going to extend that a little bit, put my C in, and I'm starting to pull a picture of his journey. Harry takes a total of 5 hours to get from A to C. So I could put this on. So to get from A to C, it takes a total of 5 hours. The distance from B to C is 210. So I've got 210 miles going in here. I've got to calculate the average speed for the total distance traveled. Okay, so I'm hoping that we recognize the fact that we've got speed and distance and time in this question, that it's going to be using the formula triangle. D, S, T. D is on top. Oh, zoomed in there. D is on top. In this case, I use the mum and dad analogy. So when it's mass density volume, M is on top, not D, because mum's in charge. And when mum's not around, she's definitely not here, D is on top. So I've got everything set up. If I look at my diagram, the information that I have about A to B, I've just got one piece of information. The information that I've got for A to C is here. And it's, again, just one piece of information. But here, my B to C, I've actually got 2 pieces of information. And with a formula triangle, you need 2 pieces to find the third. So this is my in. This is what's going to get me going on this. So I am going to, so what have I got? I've got my speed and I've got my distance. So I can calculate the time that's traveled here. So time is equal to distance divided by speed. My distance is 210. Which I have to divide by 70. Cross the zeros. How many 7s in 21? It's 3. So I now know that this part of my journey took 3 hours, which means this part of my journey took 2 hours. But what I've now got is 2 pieces of information to help me find the third. So I could go on and I could find this, or I could, yeah, I think that's what we'll do. So using that formula triangle again, I've got my time, I've got my speed. So what I really want is my distance. So distance is found by doing speed times time. So I've got 50 times 2, which is 100. So if you need to draw a new diagram, it starts to get messy. I want A to C. I want the average speed from A to C. I know that the time is 5 in total. And I now know the distance is 100 plus 210. Yeah, I've got distance of 100 here and I've got distance of 210 there. So I know my distance is 310. To find the speed, I do distance divided by time. So I'm going to be doing 310 divided by 5 into my trusty bus shelter. 5s into 3 don't go. 5s into 31 will go 6, remainder 1, and 5s into 10 go 2. So my average speed is 62 miles per hour. It's a big question, but you know, it's at the end of a foundation paper. It's going to be big. So it's a case of really breaking it down. But when you aren't given a diagram, and that goes for any topic anywhere, if you haven't been given a diagram, create it, make it, model it. It will make the maths feel a little bit easier if you give some structure to the question. Okay, that's it. So hopefully you're finding these useful. If you are, please feel free to subscribe to the channel, because that way you'll be up to date with all the new videos that are being posted for this sort of revision season. And it might not be that you're working to your summer, it might be that you're working to your mocks, which could be November or February. So all useful all year round.